Rest is a gift. Good morning and welcome. It's your perfect morning starter, and we're set to set you in the tone for the weekend of rest. Welcome. I am Bukola Koka, and of course, I'm here with my small older brother and younger brother. Good morning, guys.
Welcome to the program. I don't know where that's coming from, but good morning. Welcome. It's a Friday edition of the program. That's the most important thing. 21 days down the line. The new year is 2 months down the line, right?
The new year?
Yeah, it's a new year. Yeah, it's still a new year.
Oh,
Yeah.
We're 2 months into the new year.
Yeah.
Already.
I thought you said the coming new year is 2 months. I'm like, come on, are we in October already? But it's a beautiful morning. It's Friday, and yes, we hope that you're able to delve into rest. I'm Kayode Okikolu. Bukola, I thought women don't really focus on age and stuff. More importantly, I thought they were always very accurate when it comes to age and stuff.
When you're going to get a very good, response out of it to make you chuckle, and then, like I always get from you, then it's always good. It's a good go.
So
what do you think, Jeffrey?
Why do women not like to say their age?
Yeah.
Well, why? Why do you guys always, when you're young? Because I have seen something online these days. A lot of people say, follow me as a 22-year-old who is. I said, what's this craze about mentioning your age? It's like looking you. Have you noticed?
Women now.
Literally everybody, but I see a lot of ladies as well.
I don't understand why some people try to shroud their age in secrecy. Some people hide their age more than they hide their account balance or the deepest secrets they have. I'm like, come on, if you're a prominent person, your age is there online. Everybody says when you were born, except you're lying about it. So I'm not sure why it's a thing. Maybe now people are catching on to the fact that there's no point hiding your age. First, age is a number. Even 94-year-old registered for UTME, right?
So we heard.
So if that is the case, I mean, come on.
Well,
why are you hiding your age?
Wonderful deep reflection for women. I guess it's a manifestation of the last couple of generations, just before ours, that put pressure on you to remain forever young, to alter all of the gifts, God-given gifts that you have, such that you can always flow with the times and perhaps live through and enjoy all of the benefits that come with life. But really, I was watching Halle Berry the other day, and she was talking about having overcome all of that, all those stages, and has embraced, aging gracefully. And that's the example that we should all follow, really, because it's inevitable that everyone grows old one way or the other. But the most important thing is to remain young at heart, right?
At some point, we're going to have a segment to talk about all of this. But Nigeria was, there's a lot that happened yesterday in Nigeria, and we're going to look through all of that.
So we're just looking away from the elephant.
Yes, we're just trying to pretend away from the elephant in the room. From the IBB's book, A Journey in Service, to what happened at the National Assembly, to what's going on in Osun State. There's a lot to talk about. I know you have your point. Finally, the former head of state has spoken and given his regrets. Although there was no express apology to the nation of what he did. Well, he didn't say he did, but he used a very smart language. It's an accident of history and all of this. But at the end of the day, IBB, the elderly man, 84 years old now, the buck stops with him. He accepted responsibility for whatever happened under his watch, whether it's him that initiated it or not. The man is a paradox, literally. He has a love and hate relationship, and I saw a lot of the establishment in that room who are beneficiaries of, whatever it is they did, from the private sector to the transition government. There are so many questions to ask IBB, the former head of state, and he said he's captured it in that book, 400 and something pages, from the coups to the deaths, to the June 12th, to the OIC, to the delegate. If we sit down, we will be 5 hours and we're not done with that conversation. But maybe the book will tell us, but maybe at some point we're going to have that conversation right on the program. I don't want to go into the details, but a lot of people are angry, some are happy. I don't know which part you belong to, but guys, I don't want to delve into it. I just wanted to highlight it because we're going to talk about it later.
Well, for many people, IBB is a lot of things. For some, is the evil genius. For some, he's the boss. For some, is the Maradona of Nigerian politics, the master strategist. A journey in service. at 83. I wonder if it's
84.
84. I wonder if it's a redemption mission for the former military head of state. So he says, he had said in the past that, if former SDP presidential candidate had been, sworn in as president, that it would have offended some politicians and some lives would be at stake, including the life of the political matter now, who inevitably, gave the ultimate sacrifice, and his, so now that he has admitted, that he's taken responsibility for it, how should Nigerians be processing all of this? As I said earlier, is it a redemption mission for IBB? Because for some people, they have benefited from the administration. But what about the legacies that he left behind? Do the benefits outweigh the costs? We hope that at some point we'll get answers, more informed answers from those who should know and from those who have been watching Nigerian politics for a number of years. But whether you like it or not, it's an important conversation because it is material to Nigeria's political landscape and historical development. Important lessons that we should learn from the life of the former military head of state.
So not to worry, we're going to give you all of the bits from that event. It turns 84 in August, so I understand what 83, 84 is 84 August, and what is big for a lot of people is the story he told from his own perspective. But not to worry, that's a big part of the show today. We'll give you the sights and sounds. The former Vice President Yemi Osinbajo was there as well, and he delivered his polling unit in that sense very well. He was able to capture, all of the tensions there. It was right there, but it made everybody chuckle, but he was telling the truth. So not to worry, we'll get into all of that, but that's not all we're keeping our eyes on the show this morning. Well, there was a fire outbreak at 2 fuel stations in Bonny local government area of Rivers State, and continues to fuel concerns over oil facility safety. We'll be taking a look at what we must do to prevent further occurrences in rivers and in Nigeria as a whole.
And there's something else that is equally important that we should bring to your attention also on the program. Nigeria continues to make significant strides in recovering its lost and stolen artifacts. This is as the Netherlands has agreed to return 119 looted artifacts. We'll be joined by the Consul General of the Kingdom of the Netherlands mission to Nigeria to discuss what this means for Nigeria and how we can continue this quest to retrieve our cultural symbols.
And from there, we'll head to the issue of love. Valentine was just a few days ago. Love and compatibility, or love or compatibility. What really matters in ensuring a lasting relationship? Are we going to ever get an answer that is perfect or near perfect? Well, the man who has the answers will be here to bring his own perspective right here on the program.
Well, to everything in life, there's usually the good and, the bad sides to it. And I know that a lot of people are very skeptical when they come across anything online these days. So we're going to be taking a look at some of the downsides of artificial intelligence yet again. We'll talk about the good sides time and again, but the downsides, deepfakes, all of those issues. And an expert will be joining us to give insight on how we can detect deepfakes and ways to safeguard ourselves against fake news. So we're also big on that on the show this morning.
Absolutely. So there's a lot to talk about, as we said, but perhaps we'll get started with the dailies on the program. I think the Guardian will be a good place to start today's daily. IBB admits Abiola won June 12, 1993 election, regrets annulment 32 years later. We've talked about this. There was no clear admission that he annulled the election. There was no clear admission. So people are actually asking that straight question. But he said he takes responsibility for that annulment or whatever happened under him. But he also mentioned in the same breath that it was, for national interest.
Extreme national interest.
Lives were at stake including the lives of the people he's mentioned in the past. But this is the first time he's making this level of admission. So what should we do with IBB's admission? Should we ask him questions? Should he pay for it at 984? Or we should just let sleeping dogs lie? Well, people have also said, the president has said, without you, I won't be in power, or I will be in politics. We heard businessmen saying, without you, the private sector is not going to be what it is. So the man is a paradox. He has his good side and what people consider his bad side. But this one was what everybody was waiting for. I want to read that book and read exactly. It was Mr. BYZ that did the announcement.
I think it's between 40 to 50,000 naira for now.
No, I don't care how much it is.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy it.
I'm just telling you.
Whatever it
I
is.
think a lot of people I think that book will be sold out at this point. They might have to keep reprinting and reprinting.
The reason why it's important for us to get that book. That was a very important moment in Nigeria's history that was aborted by these military guys. So it's important. We will definitely move past it someday somehow. But I'm trust we've not moved past it. We still reference it. It's a dividing line amongst all of us. Anyway, because I wanted to say something.
Yeah, and what should we do as well? It's not in our hands, but I can't resist asking the question. With a 17.3 billion naira raised from IBB's book, should Nigerians also be asking for it as part of the
presidential library?
I like your answer,
the money is going to that library. He's building a library that has all sorts of museum, theaters, and all of that. So I think the money you see that I was looking at that table. I looked at that table.
It's not a complete round table.
Oh, I wish they gave us the aerial shot of that table. I looked at that table. Whatever you see that table, that table is a combination of the choices Nigeria had made, whether it was a mistake or it was a right decision. You understand where I'm going with this? That semicircle.
But with some were missing. Some state representatives, and people were like, "Where's former president Muhammad Buhari? Where's who else was not there?"
So just him.
Just him.
T.Y. Danjuma was not there. T.Y. was not there. Who is like the Oga?
But he sent a representative.
Yeah.
So I'm like,
and the code by which that table operates, I think, is left, to their own kind of esoteric knowledge. So just leave them in their own world there. But it was beautiful to watch, and I like your analysis, Jeffrey. It is evidence, a testament to the choices Nigerians have made
by force or by choice.
Yes. In the last couple of decades of our history, about 60 to plus years.
Yeah, it's interesting. Kyle, wanted to say something. So let Nigerians remember that the men on that table have been part of Nigeria's history since independence. Some of them have been part of every coup. Some of them are beneficiaries of those coups. Some of them are now regretting for what they did in '93. So that is Nigeria seated on that semicircle.
I think maybe some would say the softest, of course, is former President Goodluck Jonathan.
Because the outlier, right?
Of sorts, in that sense. Because others either have a military, very strong, or they govern at a very tough time. He had his own tough times too. But come on, can you compare it with Gowon's time during the war? Can you compare it with Obasanjo's first and second coming? Can you compare? Of course, IBB is the I don't want to say the Oga in that sense.
He survived 2 coups or alleged
right, and he found a way to still stay relevant. And that's something we must talk about. So we'll grab that book. They've always said that one of the best ways to make money after you leave office is to write a book. Former governor of Kaduna State, Nasir El-Rufai, said he made more money writing a book than he made as previous. So yeah, there you go.
Maybe when Professor Mahmoud lives in December,
write a book.
He will write a book. We're waiting.
All right, let's go to the next paper this morning. Interesting. The next is Nigerian Tribune, and it also toes the same line. All papers would be remiss without capturing what happened yesterday during the launch of IDB's books. Take a look at this. MKO won June 12 election. Abacha annulled it, IBB says. You find this story on pages 4 and 5 of the paper. There's more insight. Without Babangida, I wouldn't have joined politics. that's ascribed to our current president, Tinubu, and Dangote, Rabiu, Danjuma, Arthur Eze. Others donate 16 billion naira for IBB Presidential Library. And some yesterday at that big event just made their donations quietly without any public announcement. So interesting event. So when are your books coming out, guys?
When I finish service.
Or when you finish declaring an election, you know what? Let's take a look at the next paper. And I'm spoke for choice here. All the dailies actually have that same story on the front page. So let's see. This Nigeria has the same story. June 12 annulment, most regrettable, says Babangida. That's what you find on the front page of This Nigeria. So same thing. And I just wanted to say that for people who, a lot of people are angry, by the way, seeing those pictures, those videos, seeing them laugh together. And they're like, come on, you people are enemies and all of that. But hey, one thing you should know is when at that level, really, you don't have enemies in that sense, right? So don't kill yourself over anybody. You saw what played out in Osun State. It's really sad. So please do not die over anybody's disagreement, because you don't know, they pick up a phone next minute and say, Alpha, where are we meeting? And you are on the streets fighting. So please don't kill yourself for anybody's war. Let's move on to the next daily.
I remember what, maybe we'll go to Blueprint 32 years after IBB admits same thing. So as I said, there's so many questions. I guess the book will answer. I can't wait to get my hands on a copy of that book. From the 66 coup to the 75 is this 75 now? 74 coup that removed Yakubu Gowon and brought in Olusegun Obasanjo, the Dimka coup. You remember the incident at the radio house where Tiwa had to send IBB to go and get his friend out of that place. Well, you know how that ended. To the issues around the toppling of the Shagari government to bring in Buhari, and then them still toppling Buhari's government to bring in IBB. The two coups that involved VATSA, or alleged coup that involved VATSA, and then the Oka coup that really literally took an ethnic dimension. The Delegiwa's death, the joining of the IOC, whether it's a surreptitious. He talked about, there's a lot of questions that needs a lot of answers as far as that book is concerned. So we're all looking at it to see where does this leave us as a people. So if you read some of the pages of these dailies, maybe they have their own excerpt as far as this book or this expose, if you will. 32 years down the line, the man is 84 years old. He's lived his life. Whether he lived a good life or a bad one is up to you to make up your mind as to what it is. But so as we're looking at all the dailies, guys, it's literally like everybody is, if you don't talk about this. An interesting thing is the fact that those who kicked out somebody are seated right by this.
Right? Yeah, that's what the former Vice President Shibaki also referenced, that you're seated with your former tormentors.
Tormentor, yeah, when he was talking about the president,
current president. And you know, he laughed, and a lot of people were angry. What's funny about that? But that's the truth. That is just what it is. You know, politics is unfair a lot of times, particularly to the people, to those who take it really seriously. But it is what it is. Years down the line, pardon me, I won't be shocked if current president, Labour Party presidential candidate Peter Obi, Atiku Abubakar, who
will sit on the
same table. Yeah,
Showore would sit at the same table and chuckle. I said, thank you for all you did.
I mean,
and all of that.
There was never any love lost between former President Olusegun Obasanjo and the current president. But yeah, they are at the same table. They were at the same table rather yesterday. And even our current president, as a candidate, had cause to visit him during his electioneering campaign. So you'll be doing yourself a favor if you assume a safe distance, from sentimental politics or emotionalism in Nigerian politics.
But this Nigeria, before we leak the papers, Akpabio and Natasha exchanged words in Raul this session. I don't know. I think we should just get counselors. There's something good. I think it's beyond what happened about. You remember it happened between Bukola Saraki and Gospel Akpabio. That was because Senator Akpabio wanted to sit where there was no mic. The clerk insisted, don't sit there, we're not going to hear you. And the house rule says that you have to be seated where you are designated to sit before you can be recognized. The Senate President has some powers according to their rule books. They read it out, the chief whip read it out and all of that. But for me, when I looked at what happened between Natasha and Senator Akpabio yesterday, I think it was beyond that particular incident. She's been angry for a long time, and she had to mention it like, look, since I think that nightclub reference that you made at the backlash, she said she's not been recognized to move her motion, present her bills and all of that. So that's why I say we need counselors in the room.
Well, you have to look at it from, all sides to the story. The rule books, say that you must comply when seats have been moved as a result of one reason or the other. But apparently, there were issues prior to that time. As she articulated, she got a chance to speak, but the rules also have to be complied with. So for those turning it into a gender issue and those who are positioning it as she's a professional and all of that, they must look at all of the sides to this particular story. And according to reports, this is not the first time that she had to have that kind of confrontation with the Senate president. So, let's see how it unfolds, but we hope for better relations.
Don't worry, we'll show you that.
The only thing is just to be careful for the use of language. For instance, Akpabio, my former governor, is an interesting gentleman who sometimes the use of his language can be interesting. His language has put him in a lot of trouble. So that's maybe we'll check, but the rules are the rules. So from what I see, yes, the rules were not followed, but there's something beyond that incident. More like, I don't imply you sins. Let's say it in pidgin. I don't imply you sins. You can't enter my trap. Let's go.
Have we taken news direct just yet? Again, your guesses.
I think we said that before.
I think we're going this time around.
Same front page.
To this Nigeria.
Yeah, we're taking this Nigeria actually.
We're having a good time apparently.
This Nigeria news direct that not taking, but still the same thing on the front page. 32 years later, no doubt MK Abiola won. By the way, he said something about Delegiwa, saying that it doesn't make sense for anyone to think that his government was responsible for Delegiwa's death, saying it's foolish and cheap to say my government killed him. So the question is still, who killed
Delegiwa? So there are so many that, because the people that are arguing against, insisting that it's government under him that killed Delegiwa, the argument is that the level of sophistry to bring a bomb, put it in an envelope or whatever it is, how they did it, can only take an institution or states to be able to achieve that as at that material time. If it is now here, there's a proliferation of bombs, IEDs, all over. Then before you see those kind of things as an individual or even a group, it's going to be tough. So, but the man has said his own. We may never know who killed Delegiwa. This is what it means at the end of the day. We may never know.
Well, a sticking point in our history as well. So there's a story that we may be missing as a result of the excitement from the book launch from yesterday, and that's the CBN retaining NPR at 27.5%.
That was inevitable.
Yeah.
That was the right thing.
That's why it's not that's why we are not missing it, because if it was like a hike now or
it will be forming conversations.
So it was
somewhere on the sideline.
The Babangida story, we won't drown it. This is a man who made an admission 32 years down the line. 32 years. 32. And he made an admission, an NPR. Nigerians want to do. Because people, I was a teenager. I remember this election vividly. This election, I remember that election like the back of my hand. I was a teenager, but I remember it. Nigeria was all together until, and I was, as a teenager, I was scared that the country will burn, because we saw military, what do you call those? Is it tanks now on the streets?
Yeah, the armored personnel.
Armored personnel.
The June 12 riots.
Yeah. Literally on the street, because it was like Nigeria was like a balloon. They just needed like a needle to just nib it, and boom, we're going to explode. Because of June 12, people died.
Yeah.
So that's why people are really angry. People were emotionally invested. So anyway,
so we go straight to trends now. And which one are we starting with?
For choice. I think let's just hear what you're saying about Babangida's U-turn now, as some have called it, at least for the winner of the election now. Who's responsible? What was responsible? There's still a lot of questions to ask, but seeing that he's made a U-turn, I mean, we've seen successive governments help to make that U-turn easier. The previous government of Muhammadu Buhari, conferring the honor, the highest honor in the land, was sort of acknowledging that, but we still needed to have this.
Apologize.
But that was
belated.
Well, it wasn't even coming from, I think he was apologizing on behalf of Nigeria. But Nigeria would say, well, we were not involved in this thing. First, it was military government. Secondly, but anyway, what have you been saying? Justice Amodi Agbe is first on this, saying that this reportage is sensational. No, but don't just take that and run. This user goes on to say, has IBB ever denied Abiola won 1993 election? We're getting somewhere with this comment. He has always evaded that topic and remained silent until today. Saying he made a U-turn is sensationalism, but maybe we could just break it down for you. Someone annulled the election, so saying that you didn't win the election. But today, yesterday rather, the person said, based on the facts available now, or to him, the person actually won the election. So it's quite simple. He was heading one direction before by saying, no, you didn't win the election. And he said, oh, you won the election. So that's where the U-turn comes in. Justice Amodi Agbe. I hope you understand that context.
Kade, Jeffrey, that's why I said that table, is run by rules that only those former presidents can understand. Who knows? Maybe another 5 years from now, we'll be just making some more discoveries and some more U-turns will be shaping our national history. And at that point, we'll be asking ourselves again the same questions. What do we do? Should we forgive them and just move on? Or should we just, turn over on the other side of the bed and yawn, as usual? That's Nigeria for you. The place of accountability is very, very slim, perhaps almost crowded out as far as governance is concerned. And I think that is the biggest, sticking point that dots every administration. And it is something for not just former presidents to reflect on, but everyone that has an opportunity, to take up leadership spaces at the subnational level and at the national level. The next user is Dr. Muyiwa Ajao, who says, truth will always prevail. There is nothing anyone can do against the truth, but for the truth. I like that. There is nothing anyone can do against the truth, but for the truth. And there is more honor in acknowledging truth at the onset rather than in the end.
So Abiola was right after all in the, what's that place again? When he came back to make that declaration.
Thank
you. He said he won. Adetunji Adewolu says, if he knew Abiola won, was the annulment a betrayal of democracy or necessary move for Nigeria's stability? Let history judge. Just like the question I asked, what should we do with his confession?
I like confession that. In an interview, that would be a great follow-up. Okay, so you've admitted.
Your Excellency, what should we do with your admission?
That's a brilliant one.
Should we go? Should we prosecute you? Should we forgive you? Should we?
Consequences, really.
What should we do with it?
But you have to understand the
nature of that song, Cardi. Yeah. Now that we've got love, what are we gonna do?
Thank you for singing. At least you're all of the tension in that one.
IBB, Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida is an interesting individual, interesting elder statesman now. Even though some people get offended when you use those words on people like him. But he's an elder statesman.
But that's.
But I'm telling you, there's certain.
You prefer elder head of statesman or so? But that's what it is.
It was our head of state. He did some good things, and did some terrible things.
Guess what? His admission right now makes President Tinubu look really good.
Yeah. So when I mean terrible things, is the admission that he should have stood up as the head of state to say this man won. But he is also saying that I did it for national interest. So she terrible. Well, let's just rephrase that word. He did good and bad at the organization.
No, because now a lot of people want to turn their attention away from their misgivings with President Tinubu. I remember that IBB had done something in the past. So right now, President Tinubu will enjoy some break. Because people just remember that, there was someone who did something terrible in the past. All of the inflation,
remember?
Yeah.
The beginning of the deceleration.
A lot of people will move.
The beginning of the deceleration of our currency started with him. The structural adjustment program, the one that the president right now is putting us through and is telling us to endure. That's why when we say to the president and his people and his handlers, I don't know how long some of you were working with the president that lived, but I'm sure you lived in the time all of us lived in. We have seen this movie before. We know how this movie ended. We hope that this movie is not...
It's a different one.
the same like that.
I'm not quite sure that it will make the current administration good if we learned to have a sense of history and not develop amnesia, just because of a momentary events that seems to be dominating the headlines. If we learned to compartmentalize the issues and take into full cognizance our current challenges and demand, again, that word is coming up, accountability.
So what do we have next, Bukola?
Okay, I think that video, let's go to that video, guys. I think we should go to that video of the exchange.
The exchange between Kogi Senator Natasha Uduaghan and the Senate President. And we'll be right back.
Okay, apparently, as soon as we get that video ready, so
we need to act it out so people understand. All right, so it concerns seats, as we have seats here. Okay, no need to act it out, just take a listen.
Order is consent.
Order, please.
Nice to see that. That is the order of the Senate.
Sir, order 10 on privileges.
Asha,
Any senator may rise at any time
can the
to speak upon a matter of privilege suddenly arising, and he shall be prepared to move without notice. A motion declaring that the content of breach of privilege has been
suspension immediately.
You are delivering silent manual and the voice of protestation on this law. You have denied me the right to contribute to motion. I have not been able to take the second reading of my bill today. So, Mr. Senate President, I am not afraid of what I've been silent. I will not show to the court. I choose, as the senator duly elected by my people, I choose to remain on this seat.
Okay, that was really flaring there.
Yeah.
That was really the gloves were off, literally. So let's give people the context. So we understand that there were defections, so that necessitated shifting or moving of seats.
Three defections. Yes. I think latest was Senator Nwoko.
Yeah, so we understand that the Senate President, according to the House rules, has that power to change seats based on peculiarity of situation.
Yeah, that's order 6 now.
Yes,
order
so
6.
that is how what necessitated. The chief whip actually stood up to read out the House rule and the powers of the Senate, because the Senate President has a power not to not to accept. You will not be able to raise any motion or raise any whatever it is you want to say. He will not recognize you if you're not seated where you're supposed to
been allocated.
So that was a bone of contention. I understand Natasha refused to move, and which is that argument ensuing. But he now saying move her out. The language you used perhaps even provoked her the more. Maybe she didn't feel dignified enough, but she also went out of range, pointing him. I know that the men who were there, I even saw the former deputy governor of Rivers State, Bonny go.
Oh yeah.
Come. Women are very few in that house, so the women have some of them, 4 of them. So what happened was there are two things here. There is the person of Senator Godswill Akpabio from Akwa Ibom State. There is the Senate President.
Office of the Senate
President. So perhaps that's why they were appealing to her, like, even if you don't want to respect the individual, respect the seats and just obey.
And we saw another senator, his name escapes me now, from Kogi State, apologizing on behalf of the Kogi caucus of, the senators. But, listen to the words of the senator from Kogi, Natasha Uduaghan. You have maligned me. You have discriminated against me. You have not allowed me to air my emotions and all of that. It appears as if beyond what we see transpiring
Yesterday.
during plenary. There's more, and there are conversations that need to be had. Jeffrey is calling for counseling. Maybe that is what is required as an intervention to sort of douse the tension and ease the frosty relations between Senator from Kogi and the Senate President.
Yeah, it was Senator Jibrin, as you said, from Kogi East, that apologized. But something a lot of people missed yesterday, and I want to quickly raise it, is that, do you know that at the gallery, just before plenary started, the Senate President acknowledged the presence of students from secondary schools who had come to observe plenary?
Oh dear.
They were seated right there. So, usually as a student, you go for all these field trips. Let's see how governance works. Let's see how they make laws that affect our lives. You would even write a report about it when you return. So they were like, let's go there because we expect to see, how governance operates, so that when we get there, we know how to also act. So they acknowledged those students, and few minutes after this ensued. I'm imagining I'm one of those students right there observing that. What would you think of Nigeria? What kind of report would you write? What would you do when you get there? Let us hope that those students do the right thing and not let this, taint their future. But a lot of people are referring to this happening some years ago between now Senate President and former Senate President Bukola Saraki. But you know what's quite interesting, guys? After that exchange, Senator Akpabio apologized. So would we see Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan apologizing just as it happened there?
Let's take a look.
I absolutely love senators that are not in the House or in the Senate, but that's aside. So that happened. Then, we had the PDP as the Senate President. The APC was in government. So there was a lot of, feisty relationship then. But as I said earlier on, he was minority leader, right? And then he resigned because he had to move to the APC. So Senator Akpabio apologized. So would we see that happen? Well, let's wait to find out, guys.
Yeah, so
we'll take a quick break now. Right, and when we come back, we'll get to the very first conversation that we're having with you on the program. Okay, so you can share your thoughts on CTV, #CTV Morning.
And
brief
of course, WhatsApp number.
And that's on X, and then WhatsApp number as well. Join us again in a moment. Welcome back. If you live in the Niger Delta region, this is literally a recurrent decimal. It keeps happening about fires, spillage, issues of busting of pipelines, whether by mechanical error or vandals. It keeps happening. So there was a fire outbreak at 2 flow stations within the Carlton Channel in Bonny local government area, raising concern about the safety of the people and the aquatic world, if you will. The means of livelihood of the people have been distorted for many years. You can remember the Ogoni incident. So our job is, when this happens, we'll bring you up to speed as to what is really happening from the witnesses' mouth and some of the interventionist agencies as to what they are doing, to at least bring some relief to the people. That's why I've been joined in the program by the Director, Ecological Think Tank, HOMEF, a member steering committee of Oil Watch International. Is also co-recipient 2010 Right Livelihood Award. Nemo Basi joining us from Uyo in Akwa Ibom State. Also joining us is Omoni Longjo. Long John's 2-time vice chairman of Bonny local government and former secretary in Bonny local government area. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Bonny, let's start with you. Maybe you give us an account of exactly what happened and what you know is the state of things as far as this outbreak at the flow station is concerned. That can
help us lay proper background to the conversation.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, viewers. I think at exactly 2 p.m. on Wednesday, 9th February, we received a report of a fire outbreak around the fuel station at Cotton Channel. That fuel station is being operated by NNPC. And we sent our people, Marine Safety Committee of the local government to go and assess the situation. Unfortunately, we don't have any marine fire fighting equipment at the moment. So they went there and they discovered that it was actually a barge, 2 barges transloading equipment or product to a bigger vessel that somehow started the fire, and it flew to the larger barge, and somehow they were able to manage the situation, push out the barge to float while burning on the creeks. The pictures are there on the internet for all to see. I guess that's exactly what happened. Luckily, there is no confirmed loss of life, either from the company or the community. But so far, due to the high level of hydrocarbons emitted from the fire, the environment has been devastated. And the villages and communities around there, their source of drinking water has been contaminated. We are waiting for a combined joint investigation team from the company and the community to make an assessment of the situation. So far, as at last night, I understand the fire has been completely put off. That's the current situation now.
So let's take it to Mr. Bassi. Mr. Bassi, fortunately you're from the Niger Delta, seeing that you're from Akwa Ibom. So this has been a recurrent decimal, as I mentioned in my opening. And yet again, we do not know to what extent people are compensated or their lives are even restored. I think for some people, what do you think? When these things happen, what do you think the people really want to happen? Is it compensation or restoration of the environment so that they're not a charity case trying to survive?
Thank you so much for framing that question so appropriately. Whenever there is an oil spill or some other kind of environmental infringements in the Niger Delta, the first thing the oil companies and the government actually think about is palliatives. Palliative has become a very sad response to critical situations in our country. So the real thing that the people want is a cleaned environment, which means that seeing that over 15 million barrels of crude oil have been spilled into the Niger Delta over the years, what the people really want is remediation, the cleanup, restoration, and also reparation. At the end of the line, people want to be compensated for the losses. But that is at the end. Of course, people need palliative, they need some relief material, but that could only solve very much peripheral problem of the people. For years of pollution, we've been seeing these blowouts and accidents happening, and always I'm happy that we see that in this case, it wasn't vandalism, it wasn't a kind of infringement by a third party, because sometimes all the blame is put on the local on the victims, on the local communities. This was actually a case of mismanagement of facilities. In that particular area, we've seen very significant blowouts in the past. Like one that happened on 10th July 2022, where in the area managed by Aeroton Exploration and Production Company. We also remember what happened at Santa Barbara in November 2021, a blowout oil well at OML 29 that lasted for 6 weeks before it was stopped. We're happy that this particular one was stopped very quickly. But in all these cases, we never hear of a cleanup. We didn't have cleanup in case of the Santa Barbara. We have not heard of cleanup anywhere at all. The only cleanup that is more or less significant is what is being attempted at Ogonila. So it's been a very sad situation. People are losing their livelihoods. Fisheries are being disturbed. They are destroyed. Farmlands are polluted. Everything. The people are just left in total misery. And this has to stop.
Let's go to Honorable Long John. And as much as this is really concerning and we need to fix this, I want to take a step back a little bit. And I'm hoping this will not be academic in nature. When you look at the whole sector, the wealth beneath the ground or the sea, as the case may be, and how it's being used time and again, would you say it has been a blessing or a curse to the Niger Delta, the nation at large?
You know, petroleum. Sorry, do I take that?
Yes, please. That's for you, Mr. Long John.
Okay, thank you. The oil has damaged Nigeria. Let me put it that way. It has damaged our politics because politicians struggle to control the oil to get oil fields. It has destroyed local economies. It has destroyed our infrastructure, destroyed our culture, even affected our spirituality. Before oil, we had good infrastructure. We had good educational system. We had good medical. Everything was, I'm not being nostalgic about the past, but things were working and our regions were really, really productive. Either palm oil in the east, rubber in the Midwest, cocoa in the west, cotton and groundnut in the north. We had regions that were really productive. Today, oil has turned our politicians to people who just sit around tables sharing resources. And now we forget that what has happened in Niger Delta is not something that we can correct in 1 year. We can't even correct in one lifetime. And we've not started correcting it. We're talking about balancing the budget all the time. All the budgets are based on the price of crude oil. So you look at the oil as just a revenue generation, you forget about the livelihoods and the lives it's destroying. So I think we have to get a mind reset about what is really valuable in Nigeria and what is helpful and where we should put our energy in. And I want to suggest this free of charge.
So blessing or curse, Mr. Bassi, before I go to Mr. Long John now, blessing or curse?
Blessing or curse, I don't really like answering that way.
I will actually say it's both a blessing and a curse to the Niger Delta people. A blessing if you're looking at the larger picture for the Nigerian government, the Nigerian people, because it's been the main source of revenue in the past decades. However, the people of the Niger Delta have not enjoyed adequate caring, considering the environmental degradation that is associated with oil production. The people have suffered more. If you look at all the Niger Delta areas, the people still live in swampy communities, and nothing has been done to link these areas to the main land and state capital. For instance, if you look at the Cotton Channel now, the communities there mainly owned by the polling chieftaincy house of Bonny. The people don't have a good source of drinking water. They manage their boreholes. And when this oil spillage and from the fire and the hydrocarbons now spill into their source of both fishing and drinking water, you leave the people devastated. Moreover, these islands are cut off from the mainland. To get to the nearest community there, it's about 20 minutes speedboat drive from Bonny Island. So you can see that even Bonny as a whole is still struggling to get a road from Port Harcourt or any other place. It's cut off from every other area. Yet it has the biggest oil and gas terminal, it has the LNG, it has Mobile, it has all the IOCs here in Bonny. But they are not enjoying adequate proceeds from oil exploration. The burning of the hydrocarbons in the air, the people breathe in this contaminated air. Yet the resources from this goes to the federal government directly. Not even the states. It goes to the federal government.
Honorable Long John, I'm going to stay with you for a bit for good reason. And, this poser is not necessarily absolving the oil companies of blame in what seems to be the continuing challenge of oil spill that has plagued the Niger Delta area of the country. But data from NOSDRA, that's the Oil Spill Detection Agency, says that between 2012 and 2021, 8,819 oil spills were reported in the Niger Delta, and a large chunk of these oil spills are attributed to vandalism, crude oil theft, rather than equipment going faulty, equipment belonging to these oil companies. Where does this leave the continuing argument between who takes responsibility? Is it the people of the community or the oil companies, particularly if it has to do with vandalism and crude oil theft rather than equipment damage?
Recently, the NNPC, for instance, has been if I say, I can call it reformatted, in such a way that there is more accountability. Before now, as an ordinary citizen, you wouldn't know which pipeline has product without an insider from the company informing those outside. So if you want to pass the blame, those who are operating these oil companies, they collaborate both with the people outside who do the damages and themselves inside. But at the end of the day, those who suffer are the communities, the ordinary man, the ordinary woman, the child growing up. These are the problems. So it's not a matter of apportioning blame. If they take responsibility for their actions,
but Mr. Long John,
in charge.
But Mr.
Yes.
Long John, they can only collaborate with the people that know the terrain, i.e. the people of the community.
Exactly. And that is why in all their undertakings, they must involve the community. It is a must, but somehow they find a way to bypass the community persons, either in terms of their staffs, in terms of their contractors, and they bring in people who are not community persons. And this makes the interest of the community to be jeopardized. That's the situation, and that's the reality on ground. If the community peoples are carried along in line with all the extant laws which are already there, from contractors to employment to everything, the quotas have been spelled out, but they wouldn't do it, and they will come up with excuses. We as government and the grassroots closest to the people, we know what we go through to simmer the anger from the community. We always go the extra miles to ensure that our people remain quiet. Niger Delta people are peaceful people. A lot of other tribes will not endure what the Niger Delta people go through in the face of so much resources and being deprived. Channel CV has gone around so many times to see for themselves first class information on the state of affairs of the people living in the Niger Delta area. Is it in transportation? Is it in their schools? Is it in the healthcare sector? But we do our best. For us, for instance, presently, a lot of people in Bonny are saying the NLND 27 is a cost to us than a blessing.
So whatever.
If you ask anybody, I am a government official. I know how we manage these situations. But sometimes we have to say the things the way they are.
And so whatever the case, the environmental degradation is evident, and the suffering of the people of the Niger Delta continues. Let me come to you, Mr. Bassi. Perhaps you have some other reactions, to either support or oppose what Mr. Longjohn has said. But who should we be asking about the need for regular integrity checks on the pipelines and the valves of these oil companies? Because besides this one we're talking about in Bonny, there has been an NNPC wellhead leak. There's also been one belonging to the NPDC. So who should we be asking about these questions, about these exposed pipelines, these burst pipelines, about the need for regular maintenance?
Thank you. Well, the basic challenge and the basic area if you point our fingers to is the regulatory agencies. It's the job of the government to demand that oil companies stop misbehaviors in the Niger Delta. Every pipeline has a lifespan, just like every oil well. The first oil well that was drilled in 1956 was abandoned in the 1970s. So many other oil wells around that area, but they're still polluting the environment. And now we just keep a blind eye. The government keeps a blind eye to that. The government may be the higher shareholder in the entire arrangement, but the oil companies are the ones calling the shot. And the regulators should hold them to account. Because as Honorable Longjohn said, the people have been extremely peaceful. If you look at the extent of pollution, look at the Bayelsa State Oil and Environment Commission report that was issued in 2023. That report entitled Environmental Genocide, that title is so significant, showed that in the waters of Bayelsa State, hydrocarbon pollution is at a level 1 million times above safe standards. And in Ogoni, we have benzene in drinking water, that's the borehole the people depend on, 900 times above World Health Standard. In Bonny is the same challenge. All the water bodies, the people are living very dangerously. That's why the lifespan in the region is about 41 years. I mean, it's so far below the national average. And government has to wake up to her responsibility. Hold the oil companies to account. Hold the NNPC to account. Whoever is operating the region, they should maintain integrity of their facilities. And of course, keep to these international standards. And the oil wells that have been abandoned are also a threat to the region. There are many abandoned, they need to be decommissioned and the environment restored. And that spreads around the entire Niger Delta. And some of them have started blowing up. And those are time bombs that are waiting to blow up. And action should be taken on them.
All right. It's an ongoing conversation, apparently. Sometimes when I wish it will not happen again. But it's hard to say it won't happen again because I don't know. All hands must be on deck to solve this problem once and for all. So our concern is not just about the IOCs or the government. It's about the people that are being impacted, who sometimes will be forced to move out of the environment because of pollution and all of this. And this has to be the interest of government to protect the people. Nimon Bassi is the director of ecological think tank, HOMEF, a member steering committee of Oil Watch International, co-recipient of 2010 Right Livelihood Award, who joined us from Uyo in Akwa Ibom State. Also joining us, Omoni Longjohn is a two-time vice chairman of Bonny Local Government and the Secretary of State of Bonny Local Government. He's also the head of Ogbulu Longjohn Community, and Warrior Pusanibon of Chief Longjohn Major House of Grand Bonny Kingdom. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming on the program. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
for having us. Thank you.
We'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll switch gears to another leg of the conversation. Join us again.
Yes, it's meant to be a big one for Nigeria. We're just talking about the IBB situation, how there's some sort of admittance years after, and it's almost the same thing when it comes to a work of art of the Benin Kingdom. A lot of them looted, hundreds of them. In fact, I'm not sure we are able to even count accurately, but the Kingdom of Netherlands has finally agreed to return some of these artifacts, 119 of them, and we just want to explore this conversation because Well, the effect is quite wide-reaching, right? So we have joining us on the show this morning the Consul General of the Kingdom of the Netherlands mission to Nigeria, Mr. Michael Dillon, is right here with us in our Lagos studio. Good morning, welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning.
Just before you came on, we were having the conversation around the petroleum industry. I know the Royal Dutch Shell Company, which is from Netherlands, is quite big when it comes to oil exploration and the rest. And I asked a very interesting question. I'm sure you probably listened about that, about the oil wealth in Nigeria. I've always wondered, is it a curse or a blessing? And I wonder for you, leading, or at least being where some of those companies come from, how do you see those events, oil spillage, the degradation of the environment? When you see those things, how do you react? Do you think, come on, what did we get ourselves into? I know this is out of the conversation, but it just hit me. Royal Dutch Shell is a big player, and it's from the Netherlands.
Thank you. I was watching it, and I was thinking the same. Is it a curse or a blessing? It should be a blessing because it's a source of wealth, and that money, those funds can be invested into education, into healthcare, into infrastructure. We all know that that's a wonderful theory, but in practice, what you see in many places is that the funds, it all goes around money in a certain way, and then people forget about the infrastructure and the education and pollution. You can also produce oil obviously without that form of pollution. So every time I go to Abuja, I say this city has been built basically with oil money. You can use that to create a new city, a new environment. You can use that to improve the livelihoods of the people in the Niger Delta, and that's what it should be used for. But it turned out to be an extremely, let's say, complex, as you also saw from the discussion before. It's so complex between the oil companies, the communities, the rest, everybody. While it's a beautiful area, I mean, I travel quite a lot through Nigeria and also in Bayelsa State.
Yeah.
And for me, there's hardly any area that's more beautiful in the country than the mangroves in Bayelsa State. So any degradation you see there makes you cry. It's really sad.
Sadly, and I'm glad that we're able to have some of these conversations. But the big question is, how do we move forward with all of these things and ensure that the communities, the people are better for it? And it's almost related, really, when you talk about the artifacts, of any artifact, 119 of them. I was following the historical background to all of this, and I understand that Nigeria has been asking for the objects to be returned since independence in 1960. So I did the math. That's, come on, 65 years. And I'm thinking, why did it take that long? 65 years.
No, you're completely right. You're completely right. It's also, it has to do with a mindset, not on the Nigerian side, but a mindset in the countries where these objects found their way. As we all know, in this specific case, they were looted in 1897, and found their way first to the UK, and from there to different countries and to different musea also. They were sold, they were bought. The ones that ended up in the Netherlands were actually bought by the Dutch Museum in auctions and so on. And of course Nigeria asked for that, not only for these objects, but for many other objects. And you see how that is in the mindset of musea. Musea have the impression that they collect. And it takes a while before they realize that, okay, it's not just bringing in objects to display them, but it's also realizing where do these objects come from. And a study was done by this specific museum in the Netherlands on provenance. That's the little booklet I have here. And they traced all the objects back to the loot in Benin. Now, why did it take so long? It was, it's like the Netherlands officially made an apology for its role in the slave trade a couple of years ago. That also took a long time because you have to sort of, make the spirits right for that type of decision. But I'm so happy that it happened because it's basically in a certain way. You can never correct what happened in the past, but it was a severe injustice, obviously, that was done to the Benin people, and this is a small way of not correcting that, but at least of making sure that things are where they belong, and they belong in Edo State, in Benin.
Yeah, interesting. We started off the program talking about admittance and taking responsibility. And according to a statement by one of the officials of the Netherlands, this is also a bit of a reparation. But on a larger scale, 3 years ago, the Horniman Museum in Britain also returned some artifacts. But on a larger scale, these museums in these European countries have made some sums in form of revenue from these artifacts over the years. I was looking at data from Statista. The Netherlands Museum, though is partly funded by subsidies, but has made 977 million euros, half of that from subsidies. But now let's do the calculation, and it's left to the imagination. Over these decades that these museums have been in these European countries, don't you think reparation for Nigeria should be more than just the return of these artifacts?
The concept is broader than just the return. It's also a form of collaboration and cooperation. The discussion on the compensation. Let's see, this specific museum in the Netherlands is a small museum in the university city of Leiden, which started off as an ethnographical museum, of which the Benin bronzes are a part. Let's say it's not a tourist center like the British Museum in London or the Louvre in Paris or the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, where you have millions of tourists every year who sort of drive economic development around there. In this specific case, it was not like that. I can imagine that if you have indeed other museums where this plays a role, where you have the British Museum is it, but of course the entry is free, but the let's say revenues are generated by people who move around, who are in the areas of the museum, by tourism. And that tourism is now, I would say, on its way to Benin City, where they're building a new museum, where probably another new museum will be built, maybe by the Nigerian government. In that case, we are supporting the Nigerian Commission for Museums and Monuments with training, with workshops, with exchange of information. So we don't say just here are the objects back and that's it. We continue this discussion with the Nigerian Commission for Museum and Monuments, and not only with them, by the way, because some people said, but you are returning them to the Nigerian government while they were stealing from the Oba, and what about the community in Benin? I was also very pleased to see that the Commission for Museum and Monuments made an agreement with the Oba on sort of the management of this, because they are, of course, part of the community, but we are the Dutch government and we deal with the Nigerian government, but in the end they will find their rightful place where they belong.
So the Dutch government doesn't see a need for a one-off payment in terms of financial reparation?
Yeah, that would be, the question is, who do you compensate in that case also? The Oba, obviously, from whom they were stolen, or the community, or and that compensation is probably better in the form of, let's say, capacity building or contact or working together in the art sphere. Than if you simply look at it as a financial transaction. This is much more than just a financial transaction.
No, we're looking for dollars, so it's not going to be a bad idea if you send us those dollars. So however that can be done is fine by us. But maybe walk us through a timeline of when has the returning started, or when is it going to start, so that we can have something to work with. We understand about 119 of them are meant to be returned from the Netherlands. So when is that going to start? How is that going? What's the process? Just walk us through some basic information.
So the process started actually already in 2019, and has built up to what we have now. 2 days ago, the agreement was signed in the Netherlands, and that's basically the handover of the objects to the Nigerian government. So they now belong to the Nigerian government, and then it's up to the National Commission for Museums and Monuments to let us know when they want to have them shipped, basically. That's the, so whenever they are ready, or they are, let's say, it's a matter also of where do you put them, or where do you store them, or, but that's now in the hands of the Commission for Museums and Monuments. As soon as they just, give us the go-ahead, we'll bring them to Nigeria.
So, pardon me, Nigeria is not ready just yet, is what you're saying. They've not communicated when and where we want to put it.
I think Nigeria is probably ready, or almost ready.
But they've not told you when and where they want to.
No, they told us that it would be probably before June, or be around May, probably in that period. Yeah.
And have they said where they want to have those?
I think they're going back to Benin. That's but I'm not sure, but yeah.
So preservation is key in all of this. I know you've talked about workshop and all of this, because we also want to use it to make money. It's our property. It was stolen from us over 120 years ago. Europeans have used it to make money, whether directly or indirectly through tourism. So in the workshop that is being presented to the people, who are you training in this? Is it the officials of the museum, or the people in the kingdom? Because there's also the argument, as you've identified, of who really owns these things. Because preservation is actually the very core of it. Because if it's not preserved, what are we going to come out and see at the end of the day?
No, officials sound so. I mean, people who are involved in the museum, people who are involved in research also. I mean, there's has been so much research done in Benin by Benin scholars, who wrote whole books about the history of Benin City in the last 200, 300 years, and even before. So the knowledge is there. It's not, we're not going to tell people about their own history. They know very well. But about, how can you optimize? If you decide to put them in a museum in Nigeria, how can you optimize that? How can you preserve that? How can you set up a museum and indeed make money from that? Because that would drive tourism to Benin City or to any other place where they are. So that's more the capacity building and the training that we are looking at.
And that training is key because of the current narrative that is shaping the museum culture in Nigeria and the preservation of artifacts, which is more of neglect, sadly so. But I'm not quite done yet with the matter of reparation, and for good reason. I wonder what the propositions, what the mood is from the part of the representatives of the Nigerian government at the National Commission for Museums. What do they just accept the return of these artifacts without a demand? Like we are asking questions now of accountability, of reparation. What is their own mood? Do they just accept it and move on, or they're also asking for some form of payment beyond the return of these artifacts?
You would have to ask them, but
you're in the room with them.
Okay, let's say we did not have that. We did not have that discussion. We had a discussion on the individual objects, where they came from, how they ended up in the Netherlands, and then, of course, the conclusion was not surprising that they came from the loot of the city of Benin. So once that was done, there was an independent commission in the Netherlands that advised the Dutch government, that said, well, in the framework of the Dutch policy, we have a policy on returns. Nigeria is not the only country whereby we return things. We return things to Indonesia, we return things to Sri Lanka, and these are processes that have started of returning stolen objects, in a colonial context, that do not belong in the Netherlands, that belong where they originally come from. And that's the discussion we had. Then the advice was given to the Dutch Minister for Culture that these objects should be returned, and that's what we're doing. And when I listened to the speech of the DG, Mr. Holloway, he was also referring to sort of the effect this has on other musea. That he hoped that other would follow what we have done, that it puts also maybe a little bit more pressure on other musea to see that, the Germans have also done similar. In some countries, the French are doing this. Now we've done this. The argument of saying, no, we cannot give this back becomes weaker in that discussion.
Just before we go quickly, I know the Dutch Council for Culture basically recommended the return of about 100,000 items, and not just to Nigeria, and as you said, and it ranges from ceremonial weapons to flags, religious objects, and even human remains. I saw that and I was shocked. And now you talk about Sri Lanka, India, Indonesia, and the final question is, what's your fascination with art and items that belong to others? For a lot of people, they don't quite get it. Why?
Yeah, this is a fascination from 150 years ago.
So you're saying you wouldn't do that if you were in their shoes? You wouldn't get those items? I know some of them were bought on auction. You're saying you wouldn't get them?
No, of course, no.
Now you know better.
No, and we definitely know better. You would not go into any other. Take it from another side. If somebody would come to the Netherlands or some country would sort of say, okay, the Netherlands, we don't like you very much, or we want your resources, and we see you have all these things in musea, and we want them back, or we want them. Some of that happened, for example, in the Second World War. When the Germans invaded the Netherlands, and they decided that certain works of art should be taken to Germany. We know how that feels. And of course, in the end of the war, you say, okay, and now they should come back. That was, in many cases, also a long discussion. And it's a very complex discussion on art, because sometimes you have to find the original owner and who was that. But no, there's a lot of injustice in that world that is now slowly but surely being repaired.
And we must commend you. I think it takes a certain level of bravery to really own up and say, we're sorry, we did this and we're returning it. Some want more euros, so we'll see how that plays out in the coming days and months. But we have to thank you so much. We look forward to those items returning before June, hopefully. But thank you for your time, and we'll of course have future conversations around bilateral issues and the rest. So we're speaking with the Consul General of the Kingdom of the Netherlands mission to Nigeria, Mr. Michel or Michael? Michel Dillon. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
So there you have it. We'll take a quick break now, and when we return, we'll talk about relationships, right? No love lost between Nigeria and Netherlands, so let's talk about relations between human beings now. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Welcome back. So let's rest easy on the hard issues now and talk about the soft issues. There's the soft issues that determine how we respond really to the hard issues. So it's time now for some honest discussions on love and compatibility. So joining us on this segment of the program is cleric, the pastor of Global Impact Church, Pastor Yemi Davids. Good morning, Pastor.
Welcome to the Morning Brief. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here, and well done.
Thank you so much, sir. We're glad to have you.
Thank you.
So, as Kade would say sometimes, it appears a chicken and an egg situation when it comes to love and compatibility. I wonder which comes first. Is it love and then compatibility, or is it compatibility that really is the most important issue on the ladder, and then love grows? Let's start from there.
I think it's a mix, right? When you talk about compatibility, it's about harmony, like a flow. That flow would not work if you don't love the other person. Unfortunately, our definition of love has been kind of skewed or not too robust enough. Love is not just the feelings and the emotions we have, like those who, before you got married, there is what we call the in-love experience, that mode where you
Cloud nine.
Yeah, you don't see anything wrong with the person. He or she's just the best thing. But you got to migrate. You got to, So most people don't move beyond that space or that phase. Now that's where the compatibility thing comes in. Now when you are settled, for instance in the marital situation, when you are settled, then you need some beyond the feelings. You need the maturing. And that's where shared values, understanding the other person comes in, and that's where if you don't understand that, there'll be crisis. That we are different. That a male is different from a female. For instance, I'm left-handed. I don't know, maybe you're right-handed.
Yeah.
We are different. The way I place my books when I'm writing is not the same way you do that. So the moment you don't understand that, you'll be looking at things from your own perspective, and that's not love. So love is not selfish. If you're self-centered, you'll be judging the other person based on your own perspective, your own ideologies, and then that's a recipe for crisis. That's when the compatibility thing comes in. That okay, that they're not harmonizing. You're not harmonizing because you're selfish.
Ouch. You're talking to everybody listening. You were looking at me. I felt attacked. But it's okay.
Because, see, when we started our church, for instance, I was a younger pastor, and I was doing a lot of counseling. I was wondering, I'm still young and I'm counseling a lot of, young couples. So I realized that marriage is a different ballgame entirely, that people are not well enlightened or educated. No wonder we have such counseling needs. So we did something, we started having a specialized service where we teach on relationships on a Sunday. We had to dedicate a whole service. And I realized that the moment we started talking about issues like this, people got more enlightened and the counseling needs just reduced. As little as understanding that your love language is not the same as my love language. What makes you feel loved is not the same thing that makes me feel loved. It's like the fish. When the fisherman goes to the waters, the fish enjoys worm, right? But I don't like worms. I love noodles. I don't put noodles on the hook because I love that. No, I put what the fish enjoys. That is the one, but I don't like it. But if I have to fellowship with the fish, I must put on the hook what the fish likes. So I put the worm, but I don't like it.
I have a question.
Yes.
I shouldn't do that, but I think that interesting analogy. It just made me think. Well, obviously, the fisherman is trying to eat the fish, right? So of course he will do anything.
He wants to fellowship with the fish.
Fellowship with the fish. I like that.
He wants to fellowship with the fish. If the fish must swim towards him at all, you have to do what the fish likes.
And that's very important.
Yeah.
I know Valentine's just ended.
Yeah.
Okay, it's been a week now since
I
Valentine's
think
ended.
it's a week. Yeah.
I don't know of anyone who says I don't want to be loved.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to be loved.
Man or woman, right?
Man or woman. Yeah. I don't know. I've never met anybody that says I don't want to be loved. I want to be hated. But what you find is not everybody is loved, or not everybody feels that love. So something is wrong. It's either we're deceiving ourselves as a people, or we're not just getting something right. And I don't want to generalize because I know that there are peculiarities.
Yeah.
But if you had to rate it and say, this is one reason I have noticed consistently that love that we want to receive is not what we get, or what we really want is not what we're getting, what would that reason be?
It's still the same thing about understanding other people, where they are. I give this example. Our daughter one evening shouted from her room, was a loud, I was even scared. I thought something, very, horrible had happened. I got into the room and then she started screaming, "One gecko, one gecko." Is that why you wanted to break the entire house? But within me, there was just that alarm. One gecko is nothing to you. I grew up with lizards around the house, but for her, it's a big deal. So I can't love you if I don't acknowledge your own need. If I do it from my own perspective, I'll be satisfying myself. I don't get, it's like currency. You don't put dollar in a naira account. So we think a lot from our own. A man always tries to judge the woman from his own perspective, but the woman is not the man. Men, for instance, are logical. For a man, 1 + 1 equals to 2.
Straight and forward.
Yeah, that kind of thing for most men, I think. Yeah, 1 plus 1 equals to 2. This happened, so what happened? But for a woman, she's emotional, she's more relational. So if you understand that, and you're having a conversation with a lady, you understand and empathize with her feelings. You have to let go of yourself. If we do that, we can love anyone.
So let me ask, who should not marry?
If you're not ready to be a blessing to somebody else, maybe you should let it go. If you're not ready, because I tell our guys in our church that when we're getting married, you see the father of the bride handing over the woman to you. Are you going to make that woman's life better after a year, after 5 years? Or when the man comes back, he says, you're doing a worse job, kind of. You've made her worse. The same thing for the woman. You're entering this man's life. What are you going to add to him? If you're not ready for that, then maybe you should let it go.
Yeah, because it looks like, so I want you to speak to the issues around compromise, patience, and who needs what the most when it comes to man and woman. Being married, I also realized that one of the things I see people make as a mistake, which I learned, is sometimes it feels like people are not, beyond compromise, people are not ready to say, I will live with this reality as long as it's not existential. I need you to speak to it.
Well, it's a lot of now, like patience. If I understand you, I would be patient with you. When we talk about temperaments, we have extroverts, introverts, we have the sanguines, for instance. Sanguines are a bit scattered. My wife is a bit like that, she can put some things around. I'm the put things, yeah. Now when you understand somebody else's temperament, you anticipate mistakes. You anticipate patterns. When that is there, you be patient with that person. But when you don't have that, you spoil things.
So who should be more patient, man or woman?
It depends on what, with each other. Okay. There are some things she has, like, because I'm the choleric, we don't process things easily. We want things done now. If she understands that, then she'll be patient when I'm in that space, when I'm behaving like that, because she understands that. The same way, I have to understand when I come home and I see some things scattered. She has come, instead of fighting her, I will help her to arrange it. So I think it goes either way. You have to be patient with me if you understand me. If you don't understand me, you will judge me. You will condemn me. You will use your own areas of strength to club me down, because most of the time opposites attracts in marriage. You find two guys, the guy is very extroverted and he sees this lady and says, I just like her, she's very quiet and calm, because he's very extroverted. And you see the lady, I'm too quiet, this guy is very social, So the things that attract people in marriage sometimes are the things that separate them. The same person, after some years without hearing, you're too quiet. Talk. You understand? So, but understanding that that's how she is, and that's how he is. And this is not just for marriage, even with our kids. Our kids are very different. We have 4 daughters, for instance. They are very different. Different temperaments. One of them, if you want to correct her, you have to sit her down and explain things, because she's a melancholy, for instance, and she'll get it. But the other one, another one, you got to talk loud enough before it simmers in. If you apply that to the other person, not even does not work, you'll be damaging the person. So the ideology of I treat my children the same way, it's ignorance.
I'm spoiled for choice, because a lot of things are coming up from what you're saying. First you talked about men being logical, women being emotional. Some would say that we all operate in our different zones. Sometimes men are operating in their, what do they call it now, in their masculinity, but there is also a feminine, a soft side to the man. For instance, it depends on how a man treats a woman, and then she operates in a masculine energy where she wants, to take control. She's, financially confident. She takes on her challenges. She solves her problems herself. And then there's this issue of, people are different. How long do you need to know an individual before you take on that decision? Some have attended workers in training and they're probably giving you words of knowledge. But when you get into that relationship,
It's a different ball.
It's a different ball game. Sometimes they come up with knife at you during conflicts. How do you respond to these issues?
I think it's the foundation, like courtship. We encourage people, don't rush into this. Okay, you're never 100% persuaded, but at least give some time of persuasion. 6 months minimum. Some do 2 years. Don't overstretch it too. Some people overstretch the courtship until they break everything. So I think that's where the challenge. I've seen people. I've had to deal with cases where somebody met someone and he's just excited. Calm down. Give some time. Get to know his parents. Let's know the siblings. No. I've decided. I've prayed. Blah 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 blah. And they rushed into it. And another 2 years. Even those that had very robust courtship still had to work at their homes. So I think that's the thing. That process time. If you're in a hurry, you're going to have problems. Impatience is very deadly. If you don't, something opens up when you're patient. No matter how somebody tries to hide something, it opens up if you allow that process time. And when we score people in exams, you don't have to have 100%. You could be 70, you could be 65, and then you pass. So the same way, I don't have to know everything about you before I marry you, but at least I have some time to evaluate. I know your strength, your weaknesses. I can't really change you. But the question is this: with these weaknesses I'm saying, can I live with it? You have to tell yourself, okay, this is just like this, but I can live with this. But if you cannot live with it, let it go. But the thinking of, I will get married, he will change or she will change, is a problem. Yes, sir.
I have another question. And we need your help. It's a matter of national importance.
Yeah.
And I had to bring this in because as we're talking, I realized that we can actually borrow your knowledge and wisdom in this matter. So, in a setting, an organizational setting, the leader in that sense assigns seats. And so this is where you have to sit.
Okay.
So a particular woman who they've had like back and forth said she wasn't going to sit there. And it turned into a heated debate. And I'm talking about what happened in the Senate between the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, and Senator Natasha Akpoti, where seats were assigned. And Senator Akpoti said, this has been, I've gone through a lot in this Senate. I have been showed shiggy in that sense, and I've been discriminated against. And a lot of people were saying they should go see a counselor.
Both of them.
Yeah, both of them. Go see a counselor.
Nigeria needs to see.
There you go. But the point here is they have different temperament.
Yeah.
And people have said, the Senate President should have handled it in a different way, that women see things in a different way. So I wonder, in an organizational setting, for example, where there's always that clash, the woman feels like I'm being discriminated against, and you as a leader, you want to be assertive without being too
dehumanized. Yeah.
Should they see a counselor? How should they approach things?
I think the challenge is that the leadership has gone bankrupt already. Because it looks like there's a deficit. We call it love account. When you're in any setting, whether marriage or like a staff in a place, you have love accounts with each other. Every interaction, you make deposits or withdrawals. So what happened? You can tell that someone's account has been overdrawn. That's what happened. So it's bound to happen.
You need an overdraft.
So that's what it's. So when you talk to her in the office, you're either making deposits or making withdrawals. In marriage setting, so we encourage people, make deposits as much as you can. So the day you do a withdrawal, it doesn't result in a crisis.
So should they have like a sit down, go out, have dinner?
I would think the leader should take that responsibility of making that deposit. The way she was talking, you could tell, withdrawals have been taken, the way they talk to me in the Senate, the way they do this, I think it's unfair. I don't know what she had done, but whatever she would have done. So I think leadership should show some kind of responsibility and find a way of making some deposits. If not, so whether you sit here or there are certain things you just overlook when the account is in good stead. You just, and it happens in marriages too, when maybe the husband has been or the wife has been making deposits in the way you respect your husband and the way the man also expresses love to her. Something happens on a particular day, yeah, it didn't do well, it doesn't necessarily mean the marriage should tear apart because the account is still robust. So let's find ways
Thank you
of
very much.
making deposits every day.
We'll cut this side and send it to the National Assembly.
They can play
Both of them.
Right?
This is from Pastor Yamin to the National Assembly.
Let's find a way of every day.
Yes.
Your staff, downline, upline, spouse, friends, find a way of making deposits because the day you're going to make withdrawal, you can't really tell.
Yeah. Pastor Yamin, we can't go without you talking to this generation.
Yeah.
This Gen Z. Which generation are we now? There's Gen Z, there's
Alpha,
there's all these
yeah,
generations.
right.
Because I am a millennial, so a couple of us are millennials. So
Some of us are baby boomers.
So you can't be a baby boomer.
I claim it.
So when we look at the way millennials are running, there's a lot of positives with them,
Energy,
but there are also a lot of concern
Yeah.
as to their ability to prosecute life and get the kind of results some of us can get out of life because of their worldview, in terms of immediacy, in terms of speed, in terms of impatience. So if you were to advise this generation, because it's important, 30, 40 years from now, they will be somewhere, and whatever they carry as their own reality is going to be the norm, and that could be dangerous.
Process. Anything you don't process will not last in your hands. Want to blow, that sudden, if you get the money suddenly, you'll be able to manage it. You're going to come down. If there's anything I'm going to say to younger people is allow process. You grow through it. That growth will help you to manage the promotion, the elevation, the finance, the wealth. Without that, you're going to just spoil everything. Unfortunately, because of the microwave thing and social media, that awareness has to be there. Not everything on social media is real. You see somebody standing behind two Rolls Royce, or two vehicles. Can you ask yourself, what is he doing for a living? Don't just go there and be liking and be sharing. Can you just at least ask, what did he do or what did she do to earn this
in Nigeria?
Yeah, wherever. What is his job? Is he a real estate? What kind of real estate? How real is the estate? And how many years of investment? So that you can at least think responsibly. Don't just say anything. They're spraying money. Someone that's earning properly might not spray like that. So I think that kind of conversation needs to be on, and I'm glad for this kind of platform where processing is better. If you rush into marriage, for instance, you rush out. The same way you started in a business and you want to make maybe billions under 6 months. Why? Now if it comes, do you have the staffing capacity? Do you have the maturity to handle that? Allow the process. Grow through the process so you can enjoy the product.
Let me slot this one in, Pastor, before we let you go. And it's also important. It also borders on counsel for this generation and maybe even earlier generations. Yeah. Because of this challenge of love and dating and relationships, there is an avalanche of dating sites, matchmaking sites, relationship sites on singles.
Yeah.
What counsel will you offer?
People should just show common sense. I agree that you can meet anyone anywhere, but doesn't mean you should marry the person the next day. Okay, I meet you on Facebook, fine. I want to meet. You can't go and meet someone in a house you've never been to. Can you meet in a public place, at least in an open space? Just some common sense. You can meet somebody on Facebook. It's okay to meet somebody on Facebook, even on a dating site, depending on the kind of dating site anyway. But even after meeting the person, what kind of process would you allow? Let's not do the love is blind thing. No, love is responsible. Love is sane, because God is love and God is not blind. So I think meeting somebody is fine. You meet them in a party or anywhere. But what's the process? Okay, after that, can you calm down, right? And ask for counsel. Who is he? Who is she? That process will help you to make some very responsible decisions, whether to let go or to pursue it further. I think it's still that patience thing he mentioned earlier, and it's a virtue for anyone, whether you're old or young. Impatience. I learned something years ago, and it has helped me a lot, that your greatest mistakes will be made because of impatience. because certain things will be hidden that you need to know that would have enhanced the quality of your decision. So whatever we're doing, business, relationship, let's allow patience, process, and it will last better.
So much has come out of this conversation. What's your emotional bank account reading? Thank you so much.
We'll cut that part and send to the Senate.
Pastor Yemi Davids.
Reconciliation quick.
Pastor Yemi Davids, Pastor Global Impact Church. Thank you so much, sir, for your time on the program.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, there's more to come. We're not done yet. This time around, as we custom, we're looking at artificial intelligence, the dangers of deepfakes. You don't want to miss this one. Join us. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Let's talk about AI and fake news, the issues around deepfakes and all the good things that technology comes with versus some of the bad things it comes with, and how we can find a point where we can all be good at the end of the day. We're being joined in the program by media consultant and content developer Ben Ubana, right here in our Lagos studio. Thank you so much, Mr. Ubana, for coming on the program.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So we've been victims of deepfakes. Let's begin from that. He's the star. He's a star. As a news outlet, we've had anchors being used to sell all kinds of funny products, and if you don't look closely, you get to see that people are being deceived. We've even had people calling some of us to say, okay, how can I get this? How can I get that? So maybe yet again, maybe like a refresher, I'll get back to, now that AI is available, it may even get worse. Where do we go from here in terms of being able to be alert to know what is real and what is fake, so we don't fall victim, whatever space we find ourselves?
Okay. Just before I came on the show, I was speaking with Pastor Yemi Davis, and he was asking, where are we right now with the AI manipulation, deepfake videos? And I was like, I don't think we are there yet. I mean, the other countries, the West, they've used it multiple times to decide elections. They've used it, in a lot of things. But we at this point, what we just do is video editing, if you notice, and audio editing. We're doing well, but we're not there yet. So I fear when we get there. Okay, so I've been a victim of falling victim to AI videos. There was a time our Kelly video was posted on LinkedIn, was posted on social media about he releasing a song from the prison. That video, okay, now a whole lot of things were happening at that time. I am a fan of R. Kelly. I wanted to listen to his song again. Now that's one, because I love this person, so I wanted to hear him. Secondly, the person who posted the video has some level of integrity, so to speak. You could easily fall for that. Thirdly, the caption that followed the video. So all of these things, when they all come together, as a normal person, an ordinary person, it's easy for you to just say, wow, this is true. I could tell you, I actually took that video and I posted it on my WhatsApp. It took some AI to look at it and say, Ben, you just posted an AI video. And I looked clearly. Now, to the question that Jeffrey asked, one of the things I noticed was the texts in deepfake videos, because AI cannot possibly get it all correct. It was spelled in his back of the uniform. It was spelled R. Kelly with one L, not two L. And then secondly, one of the ways that people can know that these things are not real is to look at the consistency of the video and even the images. You look at the consistency. We know what a proper image should look like. We know what a proper video should look like. When you see those inconsistencies, you can tell that this is not real. And then thirdly, I think the media has been doing a lot of fact checking, and I must give accolades to the Nigerian media. We have a whole lot of fact checkers around now, working for international news outlets and also working for local news outlets, and they're doing good at it. And I think these 3 ways we can actually protect ourselves from falling to these deepfakes.
I'm just trying to imagine the kind of conversations people had maybe a century ago. So when TVs were invented, or when TVs were becoming a thing, and they're like, this is the devil's box. It's dangerous. Why would you want to see someone in a box when the person is real?
Right.
And there are dangers of TV.
Right.
And here you go, everybody has a TV in their homes. I know when mobile phones came or telephony came, when internet came, there's usually that sort of skepticism, and you find people using it for the wrong things as well. So I just wanted to establish that this has come to stay. Right, so it's not a matter of fighting against it or trying to see if you can defeat the next phase of technology.
Yeah.
It's good to defeat you.
Exactly.
In that sense.
So
I want to speak to how to then approach this so that you don't see it alone with that negative eye. Because I think that's one of our challenges. By the time we now catch on and realize that, we can use it for good, the world has gone far. Right, so help people understand how to approach it. So if other people are using it for fake stuff, how can you use it to maybe improve yourself or your act? I want us to also speak to that side.
Yes. Okay. I was reading a report in a Colombian website. It's mentioned that during the 2024 elections, there were about 78 deepfake videos, and they analyzed all 78 deepfake videos. And one of the key things they mentioned was half of those 78 videos were not deceptive. That's a very key finding. So we can actually use AI, all right, for good stuff. You can use it. I was watching, I think it was on channels, yes, a particular bank had an entirely AI advert, a particular bank. I was watching it with my wife, and I was like, look at these guys. They didn't even have to pay, for people to do this, do that. Just an AI generated, and it was a bank. And I was like, this is leading to something. All right. So you can have an idea, and you want to pitch it out. You want to tell the world, what you mean, and an AI video can actually come true. Okay, so beyond videos and beyond images, I am a content developer, and I've used Gen AI quite a lot. In fact, around 2022, when ChatGPT was announced and launched, I was like, okay, what is this thing? In my marketing team, I do all the writings, I create content, and I could see how cumbersome this stuff can actually be. You spend some nights trying to cook up ad copies, you spend some nights trying to, tell stories, video scripts and all. But this guy just came from nowhere. And I was like, okay, how can I use this? And the first time I just entered into the app, and then I asked a very simple question. And this thing just generated, and I was like, wow. And it changed the game. So it has improved the workplace. It has helped to make us more effective. And there's a whole lot of good from AI, and we can't just say it's about deepfake and deception. It's really good for us.
Of course, quite a number of good, but speak to this quickly, some of the downsides as well, and how people can respond to it. Jeffrey talked about how the images of some of our anchors have been used, and there's a growing trend. In addition to that, you find pages where they're using voices of President Donald Trump as motivational, content. They're using voices of actors, Hollywood actors, as motivational content, and it's coming closer home. So, if, for instance, we find that Jeffrey's voice is being used for motivational content or any content, how do we approach that? Particularly if it's something that touches on the personality negatively. How do we approach it legally?
30 seconds.
Okay. I'm just going to give this instance because it's already home. There was a video one time that the current Senate president was heard saying Nigerians should eat free food wherever they see it. I don't know if you remember, it trended at the time. The truth was he was not talking to Nigerians. Some persons actually used the voice that he was speaking with his colleagues in the oath chamber, right? and they were inaugurating them as Senate President and Deputy Senate President, and he made that statement. But they used it and brought it and then made the people to believe that he was telling Nigerians, wherever you see free food, you should jump on it. Okay, so I think we have a lot to do about it. First of all, to educate individuals.
10 seconds.
to educate individuals on how to, identify these fake videos. That's, for platforms like this should be doing that. Secondly, I need to rush. Secondly, we should improve that fact check part of our media, because media, we need to help in fighting this.
Okay.
And then lastly,
this
legislation.
What's your handle?
Ben Ugbana.
Ben Ugbana. So we're going to go for that on your handle, on socials, so that because of time, so we can get the benefit of your knowledge. Ben Ugbana is a media consultant and content developer. We're totally out of time. We wanted to hear all you wanted to say, but we're totally out of time. Thank you so much for your time for coming on the program. And that's it on this edition of the program. And of course, this weekend, have yourself a very beautiful weekend. Enjoy it. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. Bye-bye.
Of course, ensure you deposit in your emotional bank account. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back on Monday. I am Bukola Koka.
Yeah, what they said. I'm Karadoki Kilu. Sunrise Daily is next. Goodbye.